Ubisoft desperately needs Assassin's Creed Shadows to succeed. Looking at their stock price right now, it is quite literally at an all-time low, a mere $2.38. And Assassin's Creed Shadows is the game they're relying on to see what the future holds for the company. Investors are not happy with Ubisoft. The company is considering going private, so on and so forth. Now, what's not helping is all of the negative press that Assassin's Creed Shadows has been getting. We have been getting some hands-on previews from folks who've tried out the game, myself included, and it's been a bit of a mixed bag. Some folks had a good time with what they played, but folks like myself, I've mentioned in my 4-hour hands-on time that I have some concerns, namely that, if you don't enjoy the modern style of Assassin's Creed, this is just not really pushing the needle at all from what I played. It's not really pushing the boundaries all that much. If you enjoy the current style of Assassin's Creed, you might end up enjoying Shadows, but I'm not really feeling it. And there are just aspects of the game that still feel a little janky. And so we'll see once the final game comes out how it all feels. But beyond that, the game has seen numerous delays, which on one hand could be a good thing. It could just mean that they're really refining the experience and making it the best it can be. After the flop that was Star Wars Outlaws, Ubisoft pushed to delay Assassin's Creed Shadows, so it has as much development time as possible. It got delayed twice. It comes out on March 20th, 2025, and it doesn't seem like another delay is coming. But along the way, we are seeing just a lot of controversy in regards to the representation of Japan. Apparently, based on reports, one of the reasons why the game got delayed was because of beyond strict development timeline and polishing, there was also addressing the Japanese community's cultural and historical accuracy concerns. And that's one area that continues to pervade the game from a PR standpoint. Recall that back in July of 2024, Ubisoft had to apologize because they used a real-life reenactment group's flag in Assassin's Creed Shadows without permission. Specifically, the Sekigahara Teppotai flag was used, and they had to remove that. And then a more egregious example is the way the one-legged Torii was used as promotional material, specifically for this figurine, without understanding the significance of the one-legged Torii. It's the remnant of the American atomic bomb that dropped in Nagasaki. It is a representation of a very dark moment in Japanese history. So to feature that in a way that makes light of the significance of the one-legged Torii and to use that to make a profit through this promotional figurine just really did not sit well with people at all. And I believe this is a figurine that has since been pulled. Since then, we have seen more controversial aspects to Japanese culture representation show up. So here's one individual who published a clip of how players in Assassin's Creed Shadows have the ability to destroy shrines, which are culturally very valued in Japan. So this Twitter user posted, what kind of Assassin's Creed game destroys an actual religious site? Japanese culture is consumed but receives no respect. Here's an example. And so this right here is a real-life shrine that exists in the real world that has been put into the game. And you can go in there and just kind of wreak havoc. On social media, there are numerous arguments. Some people are saying that this is just really disrespectful and you shouldn't be allowed to destroy stuff within a shrine, or if you do so, there should be more consequences, whereas others are saying that you could kind of debase a number of sort of iconic or religious sites in Assassin's Creed games with lists like this, the Notre Dame in Paris, the Wailing Wall, the Dome of the Rock, so the Vatican, so on and so forth, the Temple of Sekhmet, the Grand Temple of Apollo. Others are saying that at the end of the day, it's just sort of player interactivity. Players can choose not to destroy the in-game religious site. Some are arguing that this is really not a huge deal and that this is just the norm when it comes to interactivity in a video game like Assassin's Creed Shadows. Some have even gone as far as pointing out that you do get to do things like fist fight the Pope in Assassin's Creed 2, highlighting how Assassin's Creed has taken liberties with history and the way players can interact with that history. And so there's some arguments online as to whether the ability for players to destroy the Japanese shrines is a big deal or not. But now we're hearing from none other than officials of that specific shrine. Right here we have a Japanese article from news outlet Sankei, and its report was transcribed by news outlet Automaton, where the headline reads, "Real-life Japanese shrine officials are taking action over Ubisoft's portrayal of religious site." So yeah, regardless of what your opinion might be about the way shrines are destructible in Assassin's Creed Shadows, officials in Japan are not particularly happy that this is a feature at all in the game. When you look at something like Ghost of Tsushima, shrines are treated with great respect. In Assassin's Creed Shadows, players are given the freedom to either respect it or to go in there and wreak havoc. Shrine officials are not having it. And this is kind of what you risk when you represent real-life cultures and real-life locations and real-life countries and real-life cultural and historical elements, is you risk potentially drawing the ire of officials and of the populace of the culture that you're representing if you take liberties in a way that might draw negative attention, especially given potential cultural differences and how, cultures want to be perceived in a light that isn't misrepresented by another culture that is adapting a culture that's not their own, so on and so forth. And so that risk is kind of being brought to light here as the Itate Hyozu Shrine in Japan's Hyogo Prefecture is taking action over Ubisoft's usage of the religious site in the upcoming Assassin's Creed Shadows. It's been confirmed. And yes, as I mentioned before, there are real-life shrines that are featured in Assassin's Creed Shadows. They're not just made-up fictional ones. Players can enter specifically the Itate Hyozu Shrine, the in-game location based on the real-life shrine of the same name. They can go in there, wreak havoc, and the fact that it is a representation of something in real life that players can debase. Again, there are varying opinions online as to what that might be in terms of whether it's offensive or not. But the officials who are representatives of that shrine in real life are none too happy with this situation. So on February 20th, Japan Sankei News published statements by Itate Hyozu Shrine's officials on the matter, and that's where we learned that representatives of that shrine are quote-unquote taking appropriate action regarding the portrayal of the religious site in Assassin's Creed Shadows. Now, they didn't really specify what they meant by taking appropriate action, whether they're pursuing legal action or whether they're planning to reach out to Ubisoft and convince them to take that out or to change things enough or to disable the ability to destroy and debase the shrine. But what they made abundantly clear is that if Ubisoft had reached out to the shrine's officials and representatives on using that shrine in the game, they would not have allowed the usage and representation of that shrine, certainly not in that way. The statement right here from Itate Hyozu's official reads, "No, if they had contacted us, we would have refused any sort of permission to use the shrine in the way it's been used." And so, yeah, this is negative press that Ubisoft did not need. And this is on top of controversy surrounding the protagonists and the way one of them is an African character, with many people feeling like Assassin's Creed Shadows was an opportunity to feature an all-Japanese cast for protagonists. And then when it comes to the shrines, one could argue that, you're supposed to be this honorable samurai, right? And you being allowed to go into these shrines and destroy them with little to no consequences, it seems just not particularly immersive, so on and so forth. There's just, from a PR standpoint, a lot working against Assassin's Creed Shadows right now. That's not to say that the game won't sell well, because it's still Assassin's Creed, and this IP is big enough that even with this negative press, it's still an Assassin's Creed game set in Japan. And so from a mass market perspective, from a mainstream perspective, it might still do really well. But right now, Ubisoft could use every positive PR for their games, given how all of their recent major AAA releases have flopped one way or another, from Avatar Frontiers of Pandora to Star Wars Outlaws. And so a lot is riding on the success of Assassin's Creed Shadows and what the future holds for the company. I'm curious to see whether all of this negative press ultimately will end up impacting Assassin's Creed Shadows sales negatively, and whether the game's positive qualities will ultimately be able to outshine all of this negative PR for positive word of mouth to spread and see the game sell well enough that it might, mark a financial comeback for Ubisoft, a corporation that's been severely suffering financially due to a series of flops. Only time will tell, but this is kind of what the PR surrounding Assassin's Creed Shadows looks like. I'd love to hear what your thoughts and opinions are on this game based on all the hands-on previews that you've seen, both the positives and the negatives or the mixed ones. Does this seem like a game that you'll end up buying and playing? What do you think about the way Japan is represented culturally? And what do you think about this recent controversy surrounding a real-life shrine being represented in the game, and one that you can debase in the game in the way that may cause offense, especially to official representatives and officials of the real-life shrine? Do you think that that kind of offense is warranted? Do you think it's blown out of proportion? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out.